Okay, let's jump right into this. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to unpack the fascinating, true story behind the creation of the world's most successful video platform. Now, we all use it, right? Whether you're learning a new skill, catching up on the news, or just falling down a massive rabbit hole of entertainment at 2 a.m. But the actual origin story of this digital giant, it's largely misunderstood. So today, we're going to break down exactly how a super simple idea transformed the entire internet landscape, who the real architects were, and how their distinct choices led to wildly different outcomes. First, let's look at a staggering number: $1.6 billion. For most people today, YouTube is entirely synonymous with Google. And honestly, it makes total sense why you'd think that. Back in October of 2006, Google bought the platform for an earth-shattering $1.6 billion. Because of the sheer scale and success under Google's umbrella, the world largely credits the search engine giant for the platform's existence. But the real story, the actual ground-level hustle, starts way before that massive buyout ever made headlines.
So you might be wondering, who really built it? Let's subvert some expectations right out of the gate. This platform was absolutely not the brainchild of some massive established tech conglomerate trying to corner the video market. No way. It was built by 3 young colleagues. 3 regular guys who just happened to meet while working together at another famous tech company you might have heard of, PayPal. They combined their totally unique skill sets to solve a very specific problem, completely unaware that they were about to change the world.
Just look at this timeline. It honestly illustrates the sheer velocity of their success. Our 3 founders met at PayPal around 2002. By early 2005, they officially bought the domain name. Just months later, on April 23, 2005, the very first video was uploaded. And then, by October of 2006, they secured that $1.6 billion acquisition from Google. We are literally talking about going from buying a web domain to a $1 billion exit in barely over a year and a half. It is a legendary timeline in the tech world. So, let's meet the 3 individuals who actually pulled this off.
First up is Jawed Karim, the academic. Jawed was a gifted computer science student at the University of Illinois, and he actually left his studies early to take an opportunity working at PayPal. But it was his own personal frustration that served as the initial spark for this whole thing. He was incredibly annoyed that he simply couldn't find the specific videos he was looking for on the internet. At the time, sharing and finding video clips online was just a messy, fragmented, and super frustrating experience. That very specific personal pain point inspired him to pitch the idea of a centralized video sharing platform to his colleagues. And Jawed's foundational role is literally cemented in the site's history. On April 23, 2005, he uploaded the very first video to the newly built platform. It actually featured himself just standing in front of some elephants at the zoo. It's a short, incredibly simple clip, but it proved the technology worked seamlessly. However, despite being the main catalyst for the idea, Jawed's path would very soon diverge significantly from his 2 co-founders.
Next up, we have Chad Hurley, the designer. Chad brought a crucial, artistic, visual flair to a team that was mostly composed of deeply technical minds. With a background in fine arts and as a highly successful competitive track athlete, his design expertise is what originally landed him a job at PayPal. He actually designed their original user interface and that iconic logo. When the trio teamed up later, Chad stepped up as the company's first CEO. But his biggest contribution was arguable on the user experience side. He designed and managed the tagging and sharing features. Essentially, he made the platform intuitive, ensuring that once the concept was built, it was incredibly easy for everyday people like us to use and navigate. Finally, there is Steve Chen, the coder. Born in Taiwan and another University of Illinois computer science alum, Steve was the hardcore coder of the group. After university, he worked at PayPal and actually spent a few months working for a young company called Facebook before fully committing to this new project. As the chief technology officer, Steve had arguably the most stressful job of all, keeping the site online. As the platform exploded in popularity, the back-end traffic was immense and growing at a terrifying rate. Steve was the architect entirely responsible for managing that traffic, making sure the servers didn't literally melt down as millions of people suddenly started uploading and streaming videos all at the exact same time. Now, let's fast forward back to that 2006 Google acquisition. The payouts from that sale varied wildly among the 3 founders. Jawed Karim walked away with about $65 million in Google stock. Steve Chen received stock valued around $325 million. And Chad Hurley topped the chart with roughly $346 million. So you have to ask, why such a massive disparity if they built it together? Well, it all came down to when each founder chose to step back from the company. Which brings us back to Jawed's divergent path.
Remember how I mentioned his academic roots? Well, shortly after helping launch the site, Jawed decided his true passion really lay in education. He wanted to become a professor, so he stepped down as a primary employee to pursue a master's degree in computer science at Stanford University, remaining only as an informal advisor. Jawed later admitted that leaving the company early was a mistake, realizing the immense financial cost of stepping back. It heavily reduced his equity share right before the buyout.
Meanwhile, Chad and Steve stayed on at Google, running things for several years before eventually stepping down to start an incubator company called Avos Systems. They basically tried to catch lightning in a bottle twice by developing a new video sharing application called Mixbit, but this venture actually drove a wedge between them. Chad remained fiercely dedicated to trying to make Mixbit a success, but Steve simply lost interest in the project. When Chad tried to pivot their entire incubator to focus solely on Mixbit, Steve decided it was time to walk away.
Today, their paths are totally unique, really reflecting their distinct personalities. Jawed, true to his academic nature, started University Ventures, where he mentors and provides guidance to new startups. Chad pivoted his massive wealth into a lifelong passion for sports, investing heavily in professional teams like the NBA's Golden State Warriors, Major League Soccer's LAFC, and even Formula One racing. And Steve, after briefly launching a live streaming food network, he rejoined Google Ventures to financially support new tech startups, eventually moving his family back to his birthplace in Taiwan, where he lives today.
So, what's the grand takeaway from all of this?
What started simply because Jawed couldn't find a specific video online has transformed into a global phenomenon. Thanks to Chad's intuitive design and Steve's robust back-end coding, it's no longer just a website, it's a fundamental pillar of digital entertainment. It has revolutionized education by making knowledge visually accessible to anyone, anywhere. And incredibly, it's birthed an entirely new modern industry, serving as a primary source of employment for millions of creators worldwide. It's the ultimate tech success story, proving the unbelievable long-term impact of a few smart entrepreneurial decisions. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Looking back at this incredible timeline, the massive success of Chad and Steve, and Jawed's $65 million dilemma where he chose Stanford over staying full-time with his own creation, ask yourself, if you were in Jawed's shoes, staring down the barrel of a rapidly growing startup but your lifelong dream was higher education, $1 billion startup, or your education, which path would you have chosen? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope you found this deep dive as fascinating as I did.